What a year. I mean, seriously, has there ever been a more dramatic season in golf? From devastating collapses to impossible shots, and from embarrassing golf rage to shocking disqualifications and suspensions. These are the most memorable moments that defined golf in 2024. And first, we start with Bryson DeChambeau. He's standing on the 18th tee at Pinehurst No. 2, knowing all he needs is a par to win his second US Open. Simple enough, right? Except golf has a way of testing you when the pressure's highest. His drive ends up in probably the worst spot possible, stuck under a tree branch, terrible lie, the kind of situation where most of us would just start planning our concession speech. But what happens next? DeChambeau can't even take a full swing. He's hunched over like he's looking for lost keys, somehow manages to punch his ball into a greenside bunker, still 55 yards from the hole. Rory McIlroy's already finished, sitting one shot back. One bad swing here and we're headed to a playoff. That's when DeChambeau pulls off what he later called the shot of his life. From 55 yards out, in a bunker, with the US Open on the line, he hits this miraculous shot that stops just 4 feet from the cup. The crowd goes absolutely nuts, but he still has to make that 4-footer. After watching McIlroy miss from the same distance just minutes earlier, DeChambeau steps up and rolls it in like it's a practice round. He makes it look easy, calmly steps up, rolls it in, championship over. Shot of the year 2024, ladies and gentlemen. Next, we have the most unthinkable moment of 2024. But before we move on, we just want to say a huge thank you for all your support this past year. It's been absolutely incredible. If you're not subscribed yet, please subscribe and help us keep creating this content for you. Show some love these days, and here's to an amazing 2025 for everyone. All right, the moment of the year 2024. When Nick Dunlap showed up to the American Express tournament, he was the only amateur in the field of 156 players. Most people are just hoping he makes the cut, gets some experience playing with the pros. No amateur had won on the PGA Tour since Phil Mickelson in 1991. That's 33 years. And before that, you'd have to go back to 1910 to find a younger amateur winner. But Nick Dunlap didn't get that memo. This kid doesn't just make the cut, he lights up the course with a mind-blowing 60 in the third round. Suddenly, he's leading the tournament, a 20-year-old amateur leading a PGA Tour event. The golf world starts paying attention. Then comes Sunday, the final round. The pressure is unimaginable. These are the moments where experience usually wins out, where being a college kid playing against seasoned pros typically catches up with you. Christian Bezuidenhout, a proven tour winner, is breathing down his neck. The ending? It comes down to a 6-foot par putt on the final hole. Miss it? Like he's been doing this his whole life. But because he's an amateur, Dunlap can't take home the winner's check. We're talking about $1.5 million he had to leave on the table. But what he got instead? A spot in the Masters, US Open, and British Open. If he decides to turn pro, he gets a PGA Tour card and entry into all those $20 million, right? Now, let's shift gears and talk about the most dominant player of 2024, Scottie Scheffler. You want to know? First player ever to win the Players' Championship, the Masters, and Tour Championship in the same season. Won 4 signature events. Led the tour in pretty much every statistical category you can think of. Wins, top 10, scoring average, you name it. And if that wasn't enough, he went to Paris and brought home Olympic gold. Yep, Scheffler proved he's not just dominant on the PGA Tour. He's dominant on the world stage. That golden medal? Just another jewel in a year full of achievements. The numbers are mind-blowing, but what's really crazy is how he did it. No drama, no fuss, just pure, relentless excellence. Even his fellow pros started admitting they were just chasing him. Xander Schauffele said it best. I feel like we're all just chasing him, and I've done probably the best job of getting the closest to him. But it's still very far away. 91% of PGA Tour members voted for him as Player of the Year, and by doing that, he joined Tiger Woods as the only golfers to win the award in 3 consecutive years. Coming in at number 15. So here's Marco Penge, a name most golf fans barely recognize, quietly grinding on the DP World Tour, sitting at world number 414. Then December hits, and boom, the headlines explode. Out of nowhere, he's slapped with a suspension for gambling on golf, a 3-month ban and a $2,000 fine. Penge wasn't betting on his own matches. He wasn't even betting during tournaments he was playing in. The average stake? About $24. Total profit? Around $250. Not exactly a high-stakes scandal. So why the hammer from the tour? Because they needed to send a message loud and clear. No one messes with the integrity of the game. Now, the fascinating part is Penge's explanation. He comes out and says he genuinely thought it was fine to bet on golf as long as he wasn't betting on himself or tournaments he was competing in. Even more surprising, nearly 70% of his bets were placed before he completed the Integrity Program education course in 2023. Most of them were on majors and the Ryder Cup, just like any ordinary fan might do. So, the aftermath? He's out for 2 months unless he messes up again. But we think he won't. Here's a guy being totally transparent about his mistake, taking full responsibility. Up next, one of the moments that happened early in 2024. Remember when they used to call this tournament the greatest show on grass? Well, in 2024, it turned into something more like the greatest mess on grass. The Waste Management Open has always pushed the boundaries between golf tournament and full-blown party. But this year, it completely jumped the shark. Saturday afternoon at TPC Scottsdale, and things are already getting wild. We're talking about a crowd of well over 250,000 people, the size of a small city. The rain from earlier in the week had turned those famous hillsides into mudslides. And what do drunk golf fans do with mudslides? They turn them into slip-and-slides, of course. But that was just the beginning. By mid-afternoon, things had gotten so out of hand that tournament officials had to close the gates. People with tickets couldn't get in. And if you think that's wild, wait until they announced they were stopping alcohol sales. You want to know how the crowd responded? They started chanting, "We want beer," at the 16th hole, and then some genius decided to jump the ropes, dive into a bunker, and do shirtless snow angels in the sand, while being arrested. Sure, the Waste Management Open has always been golf's wildest party, but 2024, this was the year the party got too big, too wild, and honestly, too dangerous. Get ready for number 13. You want to talk about defying odds? Let's start with Tiger Woods at the 2024 Masters. This 48-year-old legend, with his body held together by screws and rods, facing what might have been the worst possible conditions for someone with his physical limitations. Cold weather? Check. 23 holes to play in one day? Check. The most demanding walk in professional golf? You bet. When Colin Montgomery suggested earlier that summer that maybe it was time for Tiger to step away from the game, you could almost hear the collective golf world holding its breath. Would this be the year the streak finally ends? Would the guy who revolutionized golf finally show he's human after all? But on Friday morning, 7:50 a.m., Tiger's out there, getting ready to finish his first round. Every shot that's not on a tee box is a challenge, Tiger had said earlier that week. And man, did it show. He thrived. Through windy conditions and a marathon day of golf, he put together a second-round 72. Not flashy, but enough to make the cut. His 24th consecutive made cut at the Masters, breaking a record he shared with Gary Player and Fred Couples. To put this in perspective, Victor Hovland, Jordan Spieth, Justin Thomas, and Wyndham Clark didn't even make the cut this year. These are some of the best players in the world. And there's Tiger, almost old enough to play on the Champions Tour, outlasting them all. Even at 48, even with a body that's been through more surgeries than most people have had dental cleanings, Tiger Woods was still out there hunting. Now let's shift gears and talk about the queen of 2024, Nelly Korda. You want to know what dominance looks like? How about 7 LPGA Tour wins in a single season, the kind of season we haven't seen in over a decade? But that's just the beginning. Korda didn't just win. She redefined what it means to be the best. She became the first player to capture both the Chevron Championship and the Annika in the same year, adding her second major title to her growing legacy. Oh, and let's not forget her 5 consecutive wins, a streak that had golf historians dusting off records from the Annika Sorenstam and Nancy Lopez eras. Statistically, she was in a league of her own, leading the tour in wins, scoring average, and top 10 finishes. But what really set her apart was her consistency. Every time she teed it up, you knew something special was about to happen. And the accolades? She cleaned up. Rolex Player of the Year? Check. Annika Major Award? Check. Her 7th win at the Annika was the exclamation point on a season for the ages, making her the first to win 7 LPGA events in a single season since Yani Tseng in 2011. But it wasn't just the numbers, it was the way she carried herself. Calm, composed, and laser-focused. Even her rivals couldn't help but admire her. Lydia Ko put it best. She's raised the bar for all of us. What Nelly's done this year is nothing short of historic. Here's number 11. Let's set the stage. It's 2024 and Jordan Spieth is on fire. After opening with a jaw-dropping 66 at Riviera Country Club, he looks like a man on a mission. The golf world is buzzing. Maybe this is his moment to shine again. But then Friday happens and everything goes sideways, literally and figuratively. So what happened? Spieth's second round is a roller coaster ride. 4 birdies, 4 bogeys, and a disastrous double on the 18th hole that leaves him with a 2 over 73. Spieth finishes his round and bolts up the clubhouse steps like he's late for a flight. He's focused, determined, except he forgets one crucial thing. Every golfer knows the golden rule. Check your scorecard. Not once, not twice, but as many times as it takes. Some just one tiny mistake, but in the high-stakes world of professional golf, it's catastrophic. All because of one misplaced digit. Now we're at number 10. It's a regular Tuesday at the U.S. Women's Open in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, or so everyone thought. Lexi Thompson steps up to the podium, and the golf world expects the usual pre-tournament chatter. She's only 29 years old, supposedly in her prime, but from the moment she starts speaking, you can tell something's different. Her voice cracks. She's fighting back tears. And then she drops the bombshell no one saw coming. Being out here can be a lot. It can be lonely, she says. She even apologizes for getting emotional, saying she promised herself she wouldn't cry. This is Lexi Thompson we're talking about. Started playing professionally at 12, won her first LPGA title at 15, and became a world number 1. Yet here she is, telling us about the side of professional golf we rarely see. The isolation, the pressure, the constant scrutiny. She mentions how words hurt, how being in the public eye takes its toll. But she refuses to throw a pity party. She acknowledges they're doing what they love, but reminds everyone that professional athletes are human too. And then comes the moment that leaves everyone in stunned silence. She announces her retirement at just 29 years old, after 17 years on tour. 17 years of highs and lows, victories and heartbreaks, in a career longer than some of her competitors have been alive. It's like watching someone finally let their guard down after holding it together for so long. We say goodbye to a big one. Lexi Thompson leaves behind a legacy that's about far more than trophies. It's about the strength to admit when it's time to step away. Here we are at number 9, in the final round of the Genesis Championship in South Korea. And the stakes couldn't have been higher. Tom Kim versus Ben An. 2 of Korean golf's brightest stars battling it out in front of their home fans. Kim steps onto the 18th green with a 1-shot lead. Victory is in sight. He lines up an 8-foot birdie putt to seal it. The crowd falls silent. The ball leaves his putter, tracking perfectly toward the hole. For a moment, it looks like destiny. But then, heartbreak. It catches the right edge and spins out. Gasps ripple through the gallery. Now it's a playoff. Kim, rattled but determined, faces Ben An in sudden death. On the playoff hole, disaster strikes. Kim's chip rockets past the green and into the grandstands. Ben An takes the win. Game over. Or so we thought. Because the real drama, that was about to unfold in the locker room. Kim heads to the locker room, clearly frustrated, and something happens with locker number 571. The door is ripped off its hinges, leaving behind a scene as chaotic as his playoff collapse. Moments later, photos start circulating online. Was this a tantrum? A moment of rage? It seems so, but Kim himself takes to Instagram, calling it a big misunderstanding. Says he apologized immediately, offered to pay for damages, and that's it. But locker number 571 is the only witness to what really happened. Number 8 paints this scene. Ricky Fowler, Mr. Nice Guy, one of the most beloved figures in golf, is about to do something completely out of bounds. We're at TPC Sawgrass, the pinnacle of golf's toughest tests. Fowler stands on the 16th tee, laser-focused, every muscle in his body ready for the challenge ahead. But there's a problem. The crowd isn't cooperating, phones are buzzing, cameras are clicking, it's chaos. His caddy, Ricky Romano, steps in, trying to keep things cool. With a calm voice, he politely asks the spectators to quiet their phones and hold their cameras steady. But you can feel the tension rising, like a storm about to break. Fowler sets up for his shot, starts his routine, and someone disrupts his concentration. Mid-swing, his right hand releases the club, a clear sign something's wrong. Then, nice guy Ricky vanishes. He whips around, points directly into the gallery and barks out a single word, "You." For anyone familiar with Ricky Fowler, this was completely out of character. This is the guy famous for staying hours after his round signing autographs. The player who built his career on being golf's most approachable star. Even the commentators were stunned, noting they'd never seen anything like this from Fowler in all his years on tour. But it didn't end there. Fowler actually took several steps toward the gallery before his caddy intervened. An official had to come over. The whole scene devolved into chaos, with multiple voices arguing about who said what and when. Fowler was clearly rattled. He found water twice on that same hole, turning a potential birdie opportunity into a disastrous double bogey 7. But the score almost seemed secondary to what we just witnessed. One of golf's most patient players finally reaching his breaking point. Coming in at lucky number 7. This year at the Olympics, Lydia Ko entered the final round at Le Golf National with a mountain to climb. 5 shots back, the kind of deficit that usually means you're playing for silver at best. But Ko? She had different plans. She turned the final round into an absolute masterclass. Building a 5-shot lead on the back 9, Ko looked like she was cruising to victory. Then, suddenly, the drama kicked in. A double bogey on 13 when she found the water. Just like that, her comfortable lead shrunk to 3. The pressure was mounting. Keep in mind that she had won silver in Rio back in 2016, then bronze in Tokyo. The gold was the missing piece, the one that would make her story complete. And with her lead shrinking, it looked like this fairy tale might have an unhappy ending. But that's when Ko showed why she's one of the greatest players of her generation. 2 clutch par saves, then came the 18th hole. Leading by 1, she laid up on the par 5. Playing it safe? Maybe. Smart golf? Absolutely. From there, Ko hit what might be the shot of her career. A perfect wedge to 7 feet. 1 putt for history. And when that ball disappeared into the cup, the emotions finally poured out. Ko, usually so composed, broke down in tears. This was history. This was the moment that would put her in the LPGA Hall of Fame. You couldn't write a better script if you tried. With that final putt, Ko became the 35th player to qualify for the LPGA Hall of Fame, and the second youngest, behind only Kerry Webb. From one golden medal to another, Scottie Scheffler's performance at the Olympics took things to another level entirely. At the Olympics, in Le Golf National in Paris, final round, Scheffler starts the day 4 shots behind Jon Rahm and Xander Schauffele. Not ideal. Then it gets worse. Halfway through the round, he's 7 shots back after Rahm catches fire and gets to 20 under. If I had been him, I'd simply pack my things and leave. Maybe start thinking about silver or bronze at least. But not Scheffler. 6 birdies in the back 9, 4 of them consecutive. While everyone else was crumbling under the Olympic pressure, Scheffler put together one of the greatest closing 9s in major championship history. A back 929 at the Olympics, with a gold medal on the line. The final round 62 matched the Le Golf National course record. Scheffler shoots the round of his life. He became only the 3rd American male golfer to win gold, joining Xander Schauffele from Tokyo 2020 and Charles Sands from, wait for it, 1900. Also in Paris. What a full circle. Sliding into our top 5 with what might be the most gut-wrenching moment of 2024. You know those moments in sports that just make you want to look away but you can't? This was one of them. Pinehurst number 2, final round of the US Open. Rory McIlroy's been stuck in this bizarre major championship drought for a decade. 10 years since his last major win. 10 years of close calls and Sunday disappointments. But this time feels different. This time, he's got destiny in his hands. McIlroy's playing absolutely lights-out golf, 4 birdies in a 5-hole stretch. He's got a 2-shot lead with just 5 holes to play. The golf world is ready to explode. Everyone can feel it. This is finally going to be Rory's moment. Then comes the 15th hole, a par 3. McIlroy's got this little 3-footer for par. He hadn't missed from inside 3 feet all season. We're talking 496 consecutive makes, 496. And this is the moment his perfect streak ends. The ball lips out and you can almost hear his heart breaking across the golf world. But okay, it's just one bogey, right? Except in golf, sometimes one mistake leads to another, and another. He bogeys 16, still has a chance though. He's tied for the lead coming to 18. This is where legends are made, right? He needs this par putt on 18, 4 feet. The kind of putt he's made thousands of times, the kind of putt that separates major champions from everyone else. The ball never even hits the hole. You want to know what makes this story even more heartbreaking? After the tournament, McIlroy disappeared, withdrew from his next scheduled event, went completely silent. When he finally spoke again before the Scottish Open, his words just hit you in the gut. It was a great day, until it wasn't. Number 4 is for the most beautiful player on the course. Sometimes the biggest moments in golf aren't about sinking putts or hoisting trophies. Sometimes they come from the most unexpected places, like a cigarette casually dangling from Charlie Hull's lips while she signs autographs at the US Women's Open. It's the second round at Lancaster Country Club. Hull is on her way to the range, Sharpie in one hand, focus written all over her face. But then a group of fans, many of them kids, eagerly approach her for autographs. Most players might keep walking, maybe give a polite wave, not Charlie Hull. She stops, lights a cigarette, and starts signing. That's right, this isn't just any autograph session. It's Hull, Sharpie in one hand, cigarette in the other, giving fans her time like it's the most natural thing in the world. One video later and suddenly, she's golf's newest viral sensation. Twitter, TikTok, Instagram. Her follower count explodes. Over 70,000 new fans in just 2 days. All because she refused to let a smoke break stop her from connecting with fans. The scene is almost too surreal to believe. The internet can't get enough. Memes flood in, comparing her to a throwback to the gritty, no-nonsense golfers of the 1970s. Comments praise her authenticity, with fans joking she's channeling John Daly energy for the LPGA. But the moment isn't without controversy. Some call her out for smoking in front of young fans, while others defend her as a refreshing break from the overly polished image of professional golf. Charlie Hull's wild popularity and even wilder game in 2024 have us all thinking the same thing. If this is her warm-up act, 2025 is going to be an absolute showstopper. You've made it to our top 3. This year, environmental activism gave golf one of its most jaw-dropping, chaotic moments of 2024. The final round of the Travelers Championship was set for an epic showdown, with Tom Kim and Scottie Scheffler locked in battle on the iconic 18th green. The crowd was electric, the stakes sky-high. Everything was building to a picture-perfect finish. And then, absolute mayhem. Out of nowhere, protesters stormed the green, their shirts screaming, "No golf on a dead planet!" Before anyone can react, they're scattering a mysterious powder across the pristine putting surface. It's like watching a train derail in slow motion. The cheers turn to gasps, the tension to chaos. The scene spirals out of control. Security and police flood the green, scrambling to contain the chaos. Officers wrestle protesters to the ground in front of a stunned gallery. Fans, once on the edge of their seats for the golf, are now shouting boos and hurling insults that would never make it past a network censor. One protester fights to empty a bag of powder before being tackled. Another gets handcuffed right there on the sacred green of the 18th hole. And through it all, Scheffler and Kim are just standing there, trying to process what's happening. You don't exactly practice for environmental protests during your pre-tournament routine, but maybe next year they should? Coming in at number 2. Now, have you heard the story about this one golfer, well, world's #1 golfer, who went from a jail cell to the leaderboard at the PGA Championship? Sounds impossible, right? Well, it actually happened. It's 6 a.m. in Louisville, Kentucky. Scottie Scheffler, fresh off becoming a father just days earlier, is on his way to Valhalla Golf Club for his second round. He's tied for 12th place, playing some solid golf. Just another tournament morning, right? Wrong. As Scheffler comes upon a tragic scene, there's been a fatal crash near the course entrance. A pedestrian, later identified as John Mills, a tournament vendor, had been struck by a bus. Police are everywhere, directing traffic. And this is where everything lost sense. According to witnesses, Scheffler tries to drive around the crash scene on a median. A police officer tells him to stop. What happens next is still debated, but Detective Brian Gillis ends up on the ground, claiming Scheffler's vehicle dragged him. The world's top golfer suddenly finds himself in handcuffs, being led to a police car. The charges? Felony second-degree assault on a police officer, plus criminal mischief, reckless driving, and disregarding signals from officers. Serious charges. But somehow, someway, Scheffler gets released from jail. He makes it back to Valhalla for his tee time and shoots a 5-under par round. If this hadn't been in the news, I wouldn't believe what I'm saying. From being jailed to making birdies in the span of a few hours. Crazy. And finally, the big number 1. Let's dive into Wyndham Clark and his absolutely unbelievable moment at Pebble Beach. He started the strong, maybe sneak into the top 10. But Clark? Eyes and a mindset as bold as it gets. Go for broke. And that's exactly what he did. Let's be real here, this is Pebble Beach, the cathedral of American golf. The course where legends like Tiger Woods and Jack Nicklaus have crafted masterpieces, but where no one, not even Tiger in his prime, has ever gone lower than 62. That's over a century of history of players chasing the perfect round and always falling just short. The idea of anyone breaking that barrier felt like a fantasy. Until Clark stepped onto the course that day. This guy drained almost 190 feet worth of putts. And when he got in trouble, like that bogey putt on the 12th hole after a chunked 6-iron, he makes a 26-footer to save bogey. Who does that during a record-breaking round? Suddenly, the possibility of 59 felt very real. Standing on the 18th fairway, that magical number inches short. A tap-in, 60. The new course